aristocrats of the eternal city of Rome, which did not immediately become an independent state in the center of the empire, referred to themselves as patricians. During the classical years of Roman history, it was from their ranks that those who took the helm of the state emerged. These patricians could afford even the most extravagant indulgences, including orgies. But hold on tight to understand the context. Who are the patricians? The term itself is derived from the root pater, which means father. The original pronunciation was Patricius. From this root came the common Roman names that were later Christianized. Among different peoples, Patricius evolved into names like Patrick, Patricia, and Patricio. However, during the Roman Republic, laws were enacted that allowed such individuals to formalize paternity over those with whom they had no blood relation. And for the broader masses, they became patrons. Where does such reverence for this group come from? In ancient times, the patricians quickly became a privileged class against the backdrop of the continued settlement of Rome from outside. They transformed into those who gained access to key positions and opportunities to enrich themselves within the Roman hierarchy. Initially, exclusively members of this caste decided the fate of Rome. The democracy characteristic of a developed republic did not come to the polis immediately. Such is the nature of Roman as it is everywhere, and always with the joys of life. The elite needs something that would not occur to commoners, and those commoners dream of what is a reality for the chosen ones. This layer of chosen ones quickly began to turn events into something that could evoke brighter emotions in the participants. But the talk is not necessarily about sex. To give the holiday a moral justification, it was organized within the framework of a classical orgy. As you know, this is an act of worship to one god or another, strengthening the unity of followers. That is, the majority of not only ancient, but also later orgies had strictly confessional productions. On the contrary, patricians positioned themselves as examples for others, denying vices. And luxury accompanied the patricians in later times, on the threshold of the dictator's arrival. But they also took away the sexual delusions of modern Philistines. We will discuss this in more detail later. Myths and reality. People do not understand that studying cinema about Nero, Tiberius, and Caligula, they see a relatively late Rome in which anyone could come to power. Thus, the power of the patricians ended up being sedentary in the Senate, and on the contrary, condemned the orgies of all sorts of upstarts, and for debauchery and for other actions unacceptable for honor, since the perverts of the era of the Caesars are a disgrace, bacchanalias of the common people. And most importantly, people listened more to the nobility discussed here. So the facts of non-religious but debauched orgies are clearly exaggerated by literati and cinema. This intelligentsia chose as sources the memoirs of one or two contemporaries of ancient Rome, building on them the entire representation of Roman society. And in general, let's start with the most important thing. Only in the 10th century did the term bacchanalia from Bacchus or bacchanalia acquire its modern meaning. The term is derived from the Dionysian and sought the real essence of the concept. It began with Gustave Flaubert's novel Salammbô in 1839, where bacchanalias are described as a nightly celebration with naked women as beautiful as Aphrodite. But the reality was much more prosaic, especially in the years of classical Rome, living under the banner of the examples of patricians, who are the keepers of culture. Famous orgies and their participants, what did they actually represent, characteristic of the authenticity of ancient Rome, and how did they change over time? Moreover, a rare late perversion made it into the pages of novels, contrary to Flaubert's interpretation. In most Greek and then Roman orgies, outsider women were generally not invited. Orgies often took place in luxurious villas or in small houses for feasts and corners. These were hymns to gluttony. As for food, yes, the organizers of banquets with signs of cult worship, under which we more often mean orgies, boast of the alcoholic part. Each clan wanted to prove its particular affluence against the background of the rest of the Roman aristocracy. In examples of gluttony, we will not list here the hundreds of dishes that would never occur to us. As for the cultural program, in more democratic times, they could invite dancers or musicians. This did not give rise to any erotic subtext. On the contrary, it could look like a delicate family gathering. The fact is that according to ancient Roman norms, the patriarch patrician of the family had unlimited power over standing relatives, to the extent that he could use sisters, daughters, daughters-in-law, sons, and grandchildren sexually, and in case of resistance, he could kill disobedient ones, as relatives were like slaves to him. Today this is a shock to us, but for the ancient Romans, it was the norm. More often we judge about the parties. The dictator and the patricians at the same time could live more modestly, although nobility did not guarantee wealth to everyone. So more often the patrician family represented an ordinary cell of society. The main difference in it was good upbringing, purity of morals. And what about luxury? It remained with those who could somehow maintain the favor of the dictator. Because, I repeat, starting from the period of the sole rule of the Caesars, they could take away everything from people. Well, in some of their clans, the word orgy was not associated with anything at all if we consider the intimate relationship of the patriarch with sisters, daughters, and granddaughters. This was not an orgy. And what is presented to us in the cultural space as a patrician orgy? The immoral parties of Nero, Tiberius, Caligula, as well as blatant patricians, whose patrons this trio was, here indeed breakfast, lunch, or dinner, during which people usually feasting could gradually turn into mutual stimulation of the sexual organs of the party participants and sexual intercourse. Involving the relatives of the Caesars and their friends from the age of 13, servants serving the table, sodomy and group sexual acts among men and women were common here. At least that's what most of the surviving sources think. We believe the thoughts of the emperor were sacred. Indeed, he arranged bacchanalias at expensive feasts. Here, guests were offered pleasures. Personally, he considered them exquisite. Practiced them in a special palace with a statue of a deity with a large phallus. Nero encroached on the most sacred since the times of Romulus and Remus, raping the inviolable Vestal virgins. It was not enough for him to have adolescents of both sexes. The end of the era of Roman orgies, having gained strength since the 1st century, began to condemn the laws of ancient Rome, allowing leisure unacceptable in the eyes of the first bishops. But this was in the eastern, southern, and some northern parts of the empire. In the Western Roman Empire, the ban on orgies came only with the God-fearing Anglo-Saxon Rite. Their kings made it the only official religion, which contradicted the teachings of Arius, the priest who forbade the body. What do you think about it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion is very important to me. Don't forget to give me a like if you liked it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new episodes. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.